Do non-Jews have a soul? If yes, how is it different than a Jewish soul?
First of all, according to the Rambam, we have identical souls. Which of course is very controversial, makes people very nervous. And it makes people very nervous because people have a very simplistic understanding of the Rambam. The Rambam talks about life. And he says the way life works is that life is a servant of material. For example, a dog has a nefesh. When the dog dies, the nefesh dies because the soul of the dog is here to serve the body of the dog. No dog, no soul. A fish has a nefesh. When the fish dies, the nefesh dies with it because the nefesh of the fish is a servant of the fish. A human being has a soul, which he calls the neshama, ironically, which is to the human being the same thing as the neshama, the nefesh is, the neshama is to a dog. When a person dies, that nefesh dies. Why? Because the only reason that soul exists is because the body exists. When the body ceases to exist, that soul exists. But then the Rambam says a human being has another soul, which he calls nefesh and ruach, tzura. And this soul is like the malach. And the language of the Rambam, this is about seichel nivdal. It existed before God created bodies. And it will exist after bodies disappear. And that's the true Meser ha'adam min ha'behema. What makes human beings distinct is that they have an additional source of life, which did not become because of the body, and therefore does not depart and disappear when the body is no longer. And it calls it the tzura. And then of course the Rambam goes on to say that the way God created his creation, we have some control over this tzura. We can earn chaye ha'elam haba, and we can achman l'tzlan bring ourselves to be'er shachas and kodesh and avade and all the other l'shenis. Which means that a human being through his misdeeds can actually kill his tzura. The neshama which the Eibishter gave him, which is a bal seichel, which came before material and survives after material, can be corrupted through the bad choices that we make, or it can be made immortal through the good choices that we make. And of course then you have to go into the whole question of elam haba according to the Rambam and so on and so forth. So in the Rambam's world, he doesn't separate Yidden from Goyim, he separates human beings from animals. And that the human soul, which is in the image of God, in Salmeinu Kid Museinu, according to the Rambam, is that he's a Baal Seichel. Now, this is not a contradiction to Chassidus at all. And how the Rambam would understand what Chassidus says about the difference between an animal soul and a soul of a non-Jew and a soul of a Jew, I don't know. I have ideas, I have theories, I have opinions, but I never saw it written in Sfarim. But this is the Rambam's opinion. In Kabbalah, of course, we speak about a godly soul, nefesh halakis, which means a soul which a human being possesses that's first about God and second about itself. Or in the words of Tanya Perik Vav, it's in a perpetual state of bittul. And we say that a Yid has a nefesh halakis, and Lahav Lagoy does not have a nefesh halakis. A soul which is a part of God, which is innately bottled to God, and we add, and a Jew can never corrupt it. He will always have at least a pintel Yid, right? You can put the soul into Golus. But the Chochmah Shebenefesh will never be in Golus, will only be in a state of Sheina, sleep. And therefore the Jew can never corrupt this godly soul, is unique to the Jewish people, and non-Jews don't have it. What do non-Jews have according to Chassidus? A Nefesh HaSichlis, an intellectual soul. The intellectual soul is not Batal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but intellectual is an intellectual. And he doesn't have a bias. And as a result, he's able to understand things absolutely, objectively, and clearly. And of course, the Yid also has a Nefesh HaSichlis. And if a non-Jew exercises his Nefesh HaSichlis as he should, to understand the purpose of his existence, and his role in the creation as a servant of his Creator. And he does what he must do. And of course the foundation of that is that he practices the 7 mitzvahs of Neach, 7 mitzvahs b'nei Neach. He elevates himself. And the elevation of self on a simple level means he earns for himself immortality, elam haba. And on a deeper level, again, this is my opinion, through his serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he reveals some kind of a spark of godliness from his nefesh. That even though the nefesh of a non-Jew comes from Shalosh Klippos Atmeis, and Shalosh Klippos Atmeis is Eilei Birur, But it's brought in Chassidus that even Shalosh Kriyos Atmeis has a spark of godliness. It is only that Chaticha Atzma Nasas Nevela, the spark itself has become darkened. And when a goy serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he reveals the godliness of his nefesh. And I'm not comfortable saying that means he develops a nefesh alakis, but it does mean that he achieves a bittul ta HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And however you explain it, some kind of elakus. And as a consequence of this, he earns Elam Haba. So the difference in the final analysis is that a Yid is born with a nefesh alakis which you can never corrupt. A non-Yid is not born with a nefesh alakis, but in some kind of way he creates some kind of concept of a godly soul. And I'm going to give you the source for this because I know how controversial this is. This is a letter from the Rebbe, which is printed in Korf's Tanya in Perek Beis, Sof Perek Aleph, pardon me. And it's also printed in Nigras Kodesh in the first volume of the Rebbe's letters, very close to the beginning. The Rebbe brings this idea that I'm sharing with you. The only question that the Rebbe debates is this. If you say that a goy starts out as klipa, and the best he has is seichel, and eventually through serving Hashem and keeping the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei neach, he reveals godliness within himself, which is in some kind of a way a concept of a godly soul, the question becomes, is a goy able to do that birur? And the Rebbe proposes that it's possible that the actual revealing of the godliness of the soul of the non-Jew must involve a Jew. He brings several different ways. One way is that the goy can do it for himself. Another way is that the birur is misyachas to a Yid. But when a goy does what he's supposed to do, first of all, he's on a very high level. And second of all, through avodah, he can achieve an incredibly high level. And I just want to say one more thing in closing. And that is that when we talk about goyim, we have to think of the prototype, the model. Who's the perfect goy in Tanakh? Who's the perfect goy in history from the perspective of Torah? And of course the answer is Eiv, Job, Eiv. And we know who Eiv was. He was a prophet, a Navi Hashem Mamish. And he was a very, very great person. And the Chazal say that there were many Eivs and there was no Eiv. Eiv is a prototype. Eiv is an idea. Eiv is a goy who uses his mind to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and achieves an incredibly high madrege till the madrege of Nevuah.